Oh my. Ouch, ouch, and ouch. Oh boy. That's a mule kick.
600 North Mont, apartment 4, open 911 line. Any Holiday units at 21779 and already 457.
Welcome back, original gangsters. Officer Greg out here with you today in the wilderness to show you around my relatively new Marlin 1895 Trapper. This is the short version of the Marlin 1895 that you've seen in a previous video. If you haven't seen my two videos about the Marlin 1895 SBL, I'm going to put a link right here. Take a look at that after you watch this video. I want to show you some of the differences and why I really am starting to like this short little handy 4570. So after buying the 1895 SBL, I became a huge fan of the 4570 round. I like those high-powered rounds, big old giant freight train of a round heading down range. And where I'm currently building the OG compound up in the North Woods, I prefer to have something kind of big and heavy like that I can use against possible bear, humans, whatever needs to be taken down. So after buying the Marlin 1895 SBL that you saw in those videos, this one was made by Remington back when they had crappy quality control. Now this rifle has been 100% great for me. I've had no problems with it, but I expect to get even better performance, better fit and finish out of this Ruger model because, let's face it, Ruger's kind of known for their tight fit and finish and extreme quality control in all of their firearms. Now after shooting that Remington Marlin 1895 SBL, I became a big fan of the 4570 round. As soon as I heard that Ruger had taken over production of all of the Marlin rifles, very next thing I wanted was their Trapper model. Little 16-inch barrel, very handy and light little rifle that can go with you just about anywhere and can take on pretty much any game in North America and on quite a few continents. Now, if you didn't already know, the 4570 gets its name from its old-timey black powder days. It was a 45 caliber bullet loaded over 70 grains of black powder. Well, we no longer have black powder rifles in 4570, or at least I don't. And now we have a complete cartridge rifle that makes this thing a little more handy. The 4570 is actually called the 4570 government because it was originally initiated and tested out and used by the government, by the military, back in the Great Plains days, not only for hunting, but also for anti-personnel reasons, basically fighting other people. The round was introduced in 1873, but in 1892, the U.S. government adopted it for a fighting rifle round, and it was originally loaded with a 405 grain bullet. That's a BFB, as we say. Soldiers that were issued the 4570 were actually given birdshot rounds too. The case for this rifle is so big, it's actually like a small shotgun shell. And it could be loaded up with birdshot back in the day. So soldiers who are out on the Great Plains and issued ammunition to take this rifle out for days or weeks at a time could actually roll around with birdshot rounds in addition to their solid lead rounds. The birdshot rounds were obviously used for hunting and could keep those soldiers fed when they were a long way away from the supply chain. The U.S. military used this round in the Great Plains and across the U.S. into the West as they were settling the United States. And then, of course, it was used in the Spanish-American War and then later in the Philippine Wars. And it had very good terminal effect, if you can imagine this big old bullet and what it might do in a combat situation. Now I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for Marlin rifles. My very first rifle that I ever owned at 6 years old, given to me by my stepdad, was a Marlin 39, model 39 in 22 caliber. Had an old Bushnell scope on there, and boy, I love that rifle. I played cowboys and Indians with that rifle for years and years, and took lots and lots of squirrels and jackrabbits up in the northern part of the United States back when I was a kid. So for that reason, I really like the Marlin rifles. After I bought my Marlin SBL that you see behind me, I then started learning that Marlin, at that time owned by Remington, was known for some really crappy quality control. Now I haven't had any of those problems, problems like twisted sights and twisted barrels and other problems like that. I haven't had any problems with that on my 1895 SBL, and I certainly didn't expect any of those problems on this rifle now that it's being made much higher quality control in North Carolina at the Ruger factory. Ruger is known for making some absolutely top quality firearms, pretty much the best in the industry. They're often heavy and very, very sturdy, and this Marlin 1895 Trapper is no different. The Marlin 1895 Trapper has a 16-inch barrel versus the 20-inch barrel on the SBL. Now the 20-inch barrel is still very easy to use, of course. It's a very short and light rifle, but this 16-inch barrel, knocking those 4 inches off of there, becomes a very light, very easy to use, very easy to carry rifle for out in the bush. This rifle can be used in and out of the truck. It can be used at a cabin. Definitely good for hiking through thick brush, as it doesn't have nearly as much barrel protruding down below to snag on things. Now I set out to see if there was any noticeable difference between the 16-inch barrel and the 20-inch barrel when it comes to recoil. Obviously a little extra weight out front helps controlling that recoil, but I wanted to see if the 16-inch barrel was just a little monster, as we see in short pistols with a hot cartridge. They tend to recoil a lot. They're easy to carry, tough to shoot. Now here's an interesting tidbit. The 4570 round has been around for just shy of 150 years. That makes it one of the oldest cartridges in the United States. So it's obviously endured the test of time. It's been around long before all of our favorite current calibers, long before, and has been serving troops and bringing down animals and people for almost 150 years. Obviously, there's been a recent resurgence in the 4570 round, just like there has been with the 10mm round. People are getting out there and deciding they like a big, heavy round that's going to do a lot of damage, even though this thing might not have a ton of reach. Yes, I know, this rifle has been used out to 1,000 yards. It's actually been used successfully out to 3,000 yards, believe it or not. However, the 4570 is not exactly known as a distance rifle. I know, everybody, go ahead and put your comments down below about Quigley Down Under. But the 4570 was not designed as a distance cartridge. It is a big, heavy, relatively slow-moving round that has quite a bit of drop at 100 yards. Now, the impressive thing about this rifle is its 3,800 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. That's right, when this thing is fired, 3,800 foot-pounds of energy. The 223 or 5.56 round has 1,282 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. So 3,800 versus like an AR-15 style rifle. That is pretty impressive. And even the big old 308 rifle that's so popular with hunters, competitors, military, the 308 provides 2,638 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. So this 3,800 foot-pounds of energy coming out of this Marlin 4570 is pretty damn impressive. Now, if you haven't shot a 4570 before, it's akin to shooting a shotgun. Did I just say akin? Good Lord. I'm going to be chewing on a piece of wheat here pretty soon and wearing some overalls. Shooting a 4570 is a lot like shooting a shotgun. Everybody says, oh, it's got punishing recoil. Listen, if you've ever shot a shotgun and not somehow had your shoulder dislocated, you're going to be able to handle a 4570. It is really not all that bad. The 4570 recoil is about twice that of a 30-06. A lot of you have shot a 30-06, a very common deer rifle here in the United States and Canada. The 4570 has about twice that recoil. So you can see as I'm shooting it here on camera that it is not all that punishing. If you can handle a shotgun, you can handle the 4570 recoil. Now the 4570 round sheds energy fast. As it goes down range, it tends to dump a lot of its energy, and there is quite a drop, or would say quite a holdover at 100 yards. Now Marlin was doing a really good job at building all these rifles until 2007, when Remington, or Freedom Group, bought out Marlin and started mass producing these things, or all of their firearms, to be honest, trying to get more and more firearms out on the market for a higher profit, instead of focusing on quality and the craftsmanship that Marlin was always known for. Now, along about 2020, I believe, Ruger bought Freedom Group as it was going out of business, and everybody was just clamoring for these Ruger rifles. There was waiting lists. Now I waited, I bided my time. I already had my 1895 Remington Marlin back there. It was doing great. It's a great rifle. I have no complaints about its craftsmanship and quality at all, but I really wanted to get my hands on one of these Ruger rifles. Now there's a couple different ways you can tell if the rifle that you own or if the rifle that you're about to buy is a Ruger-made Marlin or a Remington-made Marlin. First of all, the serial number, always found on the left side of the receiver, is going to start with RM if it's a Ruger Marlin. So you can see here that by this serial number that I have, Ruger's 9,423rd rifle that's come off the production line since they started making the 1895 Trapper. Now another way you can tell that you've got a Ruger-made Marlin rifle is up on the barrel you've got some really nice laser engraving that says Marlin, Mayodan, North Carolina. Mayodan, North Carolina is where Ruger's been making a lot of their rifles for a lot of years, and they just opened up new production lines for the 1895 series of rifles when they bought the Marlin company. Now Marlin's been putting this little black dot down below all of their rifles since about 1922, and that signifies that you've got an authentic Marlin rifle. Little black dot inside of a circle kind of makes a little target. Well, Ruger wanted to carry on that tradition, but they wanted to change it up and let you know that you've got an official Ruger rifle. So they put the little red dot inside of that. So a red dot rifle that you see right there is going to designate that it is an official Ruger-made Marlin. They have also put a very nicely little laser engraved Marlin cowboy on a horse over here to kind of carry on that tradition. Now the Trapper is a 5+1 rounds. You get 5 rounds in the tube and 1 in the chamber. Now these rifles are very safe to carry out in the field chambered. You can go ahead and chamber a live round into the receiver here, and you can pull the trigger and very safely lower that hammer down to a half-cock status. Click right there. Whether or not the rifle is on fire or safe, this half-cock feature allows you to carry this in the field. You cannot fire this trigger anyway, but if you were to see live game and you really needed to get this thing into action quickly, instead of racking that lever and making a lot of noise out in the field, scaring off deer or your opponent, you simply pull that little hammer back and you are now ready, boom, to fire that rifle. The 16-inch barrel is cold hammer forged in stainless steel. The oversized loop here at the back is a nice cool little feature. It allows you to use this rifle with gloved hands, or if you just have big giant fingers like mine, your fingers can fit very nicely inside that loop. If you look closely at the Ruger-made Marlin rifles, you're going to notice that the edges on the loop are actually very soft. They've been, they've been smoothed off by grinders and polishers, as opposed to the Remington-made SBL rifle that had some sharp edges. You can kind of tell up here on the edge of this one, it's got some sharp edges that a little rough on the hands if you've got little pansy hands. So for that reason, a lot of people put these little leather wraps on the lever so that it makes it a little easier on your tiny little porcelain hands. The hammer and the trigger on the 1895 Trapper are polished stainless. Those contrast nicely with the satin stainless of the rest of the receiver and barrel on this gun. I really like the satin look. It's basically impervious to weather, and where I'm currently building the OG's mountaintop stronghold, I have a lot of snow and rain, and so I kind of wanted a field rifle, a gun that can go with me out, you know, snowshoeing or cross-country skiing, or just throw into the side-by-side and head out into some crazy weather and not be affected by that, and I won't have to worry about rust and corrosion. The nickel-plated and spiral-fluted bolt is actually done that way for a purpose. The nickel plating allows the bolt to cycle very smoothly with very little friction, and you're going to see that the spiral fluting in there, in theory, is designed to channel debris and dust and all kinds of other crap out of the way of the bolt so that it doesn't cause any kind of undue wear or friction when you're trying to cycle your rifle. Now, one of the most noticeable things on the Trapper as it comes from the factory is the Skinner sights. You're going to see these nice Skinner peep sights from Skinner in Montana. The Skinner peep sights are a cool little feature and also very, very accurate. Now, I like the 1895 SBL setup with a scope, and I'm always going to leave this one set up this way. However, I think I'm pretty impressed so far with these Skinner sights. The little Skinner apertures are removable. You can unscrew the little aperture here and replace it with different apertures, going down even smaller for more precise shooting. I find this little screw-in aperture that Skinner put on this rifle to be a nice mix. I kind of like exactly the way it's set up. I think they nailed it. They hit it right out of the park the first time. And I plan on leaving this rifle set up this way with traditional sights, and it has the ability, it's drilled and tapped, to take a scope ring if you choose to do that, but I think on this rifle I'm just going to leave it with iron sights. More of a traditional setup. Now Marlin, or Ruger Marlin, use the traditional crossbolt safety that you'll see here with the obvious little red mark here for fire. This is when the rifle is engaged. Even when the rifle is engaged and on fire, you can still run that hammer back to half cock and you're never going to be able to fire that rifle. So it's almost like a two versions of a safety that you get to choose from. This one allowing you to make the rifle hot and fire very quickly. Some people don't like the crossbolt safety. I really don't have a problem with it. My original Model 39 had a crossbolt safety. It's what I was raised on. It's what most of my shotguns have, and perfectly fine with it. The front sight, also made by Skinner, is a nice bright white line. It's a nice heavy-duty post sight that shows up nicely inside this black aperture of the rear sight. So what would you use a rifle like this for? Well, obviously it is just about the perfect hunting rifle for anything in North America. Well, maybe not quail, but this thing will take down any game in North America, and the 4570 round has also been known to take all of the big 5 game in Africa too. So yeah, I think unless I was going up against a bull elephant, I'd feel pretty comfortable carrying the 4570 round. Now obviously the 1895 Trapper makes a great hunting rifle. It could make a great truck gun, ranch protection gun, and it could even be pressed into service as a home defense rifle if your home is so set up and you only have one option and this is the one you want to carry. I often catch a lot of shit on this channel for showing people firearms other than AR-15s, as if the AR-15 is the only rifle out there. Listen folks, I'm a huge fan of the AR-15 and I've got safes, multiple safes full of them, even here in California. But some people just want a different option. I'm not trying to sell you this rifle instead of your AR-15, so let's unwad your panties and realize that there are some people out there who live in jurisdictions where they don't want to dick around with AR-15s. Maybe they don't even like the platform. Yeah. However, something like this lever action rifle with a low capacity tubular magazine is legal in every single jurisdiction in the United States. That makes a rifle like this appealing for some people. Probably not the best rifle if you live in an apartment or if you have nice hollow core walls inside your home and kids in a nursery next door. But for some applications, there is nothing wrong with having a good 4570 by your bed. The MSRP on this Ruger 1895 Trapper is $1349. Now, you're likely to find them for a little bit more, or when times are tough, like right now, when they're tough to find, you could actually pay more. I don't remember exactly what I paid for this one. It was in that neighborhood, but I really, really, really wanted one, so I bought myself one. Don't tell Mrs. OG. I've had people comment over on my 1895 SBL video that they sure would love to have one, but they can't find one. Folks, if you dig around long enough on the internet, you are going to be able to find one. And I don't mean some of the big distributors out there that sell rifles by the thousands. I mean, you're going to find some tiny little gun shop back east or out in the middle of the United States who has these and will ship one to your firearms dealer. It took me a while to shop around last fall and find the 1895 SBL. They were a hot commodity. They were very hard to find. And this was even before Ruger took over. However, these little Trappers, also hard to find right now. They're still great little rifles, and you can find one. I don't need to put a link down here in the description for one. You are big boys. You can go out there and search the internet just like I did. You will stumble across one, and eventually you'll stumble across one at a price that you're willing to pay. The Ruger 1895 Trapper is a 7.1 pound rifle empty. That makes it very light and easy to carry on your shoulder and on your back. The length of pull on the Marlin 1895 Trapper is 13.38 inches, which is set up almost exactly like my shotguns. A nice, rather short length of pull that can be accommodated if you're wearing any kind of a plate carrier or a vest out front. You'll notice here on the end of this barrel is threaded. That's another way you can tell a Ruger-made 1895 Marlin rifle is that the muzzle of all of the Rugers, even the 1895 SBL, are going to be threaded now. Now my Remington-made Marlin 1895 SBL does not have a threaded barrel because Remington wasn't doing them at that time. Now the threaded barrel is 11/16 by 24 threading, so that allows you to put all of the common muzzle brakes or suppressors on this rifle. I don't live in a suppressor-friendly area, but if I was in a place where I wanted to suppress this rifle, quiet it down for hunting out in the woods, this would be a great place to do it. The Cold Hammer Forged barrel is a 6-groove 1 in 20 right-hand twist. I guess that's pretty good. That's just a lot of numbers that don't mean a lot to me, but basically it gets one complete spin of the bullet in 20 inches. You'll notice here the dovetail blank on the rear of the barrel. That's in case you want to drive that blank out and insert traditional buckhorn style sights. If you're a traditionalist and you really want your rifle to have a shorter sight radius, then you can pop out that little dovetail blank and put in your own rear sights. I can't figure exactly why you would want to do that, but I thought it was a nice touch that Ruger Marlin started adding those little blanks back in there in case you ever wanted to. Okay, we're running out of sunlight here. We got a gigantic cloud coming in and a valley full of clouds sneaking up on me from down below. So I'm going to run a couple of rounds here on a steel target. I just wanted to try some distance rounds from one side of the road down across a little hairpin to another side of the road, just to see what kind of recoil we can get off of this. And then we'll take it out to the range tomorrow and see what how accurate we can dial this in with the Skinner sights. Let's go check it out. Okay, I set up my challenge target down there at about, oh, we're about 20 yards away. Let's give this thing a try and see how it feels. As always, eyes, ears, every single time. Let's give it a try. First rounds out of the Trapper 1895. Oh my, that has got a big punch. That nearly knocked over my steel target downrange. I'm going to put a different camera down there for you. Here we go. We're about 15 yards on this one. Wow, that energy downrange on that steel target is unbelievable. At this distance, point of aim, point of impact is dead on, but this isn't very far. All right, I'm not sure if you can see it across the little canyon there. I'm across a little gorge from my challenge steel target. Let's see if I can zoom in on it for you. It's of course, my challenge steel target, as I've explained before in other videos, is just the vitals of a human, just the face and upper chest. So any hit on that steel is a good fight stopping hit. And we are now separated across this little gorge out here at about, I don't know, I'd say 50 yards away from that guy, across an open little burn area from last summer. Let's see if we can hit him at about 50 yards away from kneeling. Not with that one, we can't. There we go. Dead center. Not sure what I did with that first round. There we go. Good hits on him. Appears to be dialed in at 50 yards. One more round. Nice big fireball in this reduced light right now. Woo! That's good times. Let's try 6 more rounds before we lose sunlight. A little bit of a bound up round in there. I'm going to show you what I got. I'm not sure if it's because I threw the lever or what, but got a round kind of held up in there underneath the loading gate. I can't get my tiny piano playing fingers in there. There we go. Let's go ahead and run him in there. Lower that hammer. I think it's because this loading gate wants to kick them out. This is one thing I found that I'd rather have that magazine hold them nice and tight in there, away from that loading gate. Let's see if that's the problem. We are empty, warm, and happy. Okay, so we walked around the canyon here to find our, let's do a little battle damage assessment here. 45-70 rounds knocked that guy flat over. Let's lift him into position. I'll show you what we got. First of all, I just noticed this. That could be the very first round I fired back there where I missed. But you'll see, once we got on target, we have some very good solid hits here. All right, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me for 3 different testing sessions with this rifle, all of them going into the night where we're losing our sun. We started out in the mountains doing a little practical out in the field style shooting against a sealed target. We also came over here to the 15-yard range and worked on a little offhand shooting, which means standing shooting, just to get a feel for the rifles and see what kind of groups we could get. I'm very impressed with both of those rifles. I'm very happy that I can actually hit something with them both. I shoot a lot of shotguns, folks, both on duty, off duty, and out at Tauf Laterm House. My shoulder right now is killing me. These 45-70 rounds are a bastard. So you don't shoot them all day long, especially because of the cost. So by the time you see this video, OG's Danger Show will be at about 100,000 subscribers. Nobody's more shocked than this guy. I want to thank you guys very much. I can't think even why you would want to hang out and watch this crappy show. But hey, there's not a lot of alternatives out there for adults on YouTube in the firearms world. So I appreciate you guys watching, subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already to OG's Danger Show, reach down here and click the subscribe button. Also give it a thumbs up. I very much appreciate that. It helps us get it out there. Copy this video and send it out to a buddy of yours that is super bored or that you hate and you want to send him something and piss him off. I also want to thank the 45-70 ammo donors again. Marty in Oregon, Ben in Tennessee, Nick, I'm not sure where you're from, Nick, but I want to thank you guys for sending over 45-70 ammo. I'm going to put it to good use here for some upcoming tests as well. Thank you very much. And Tony out in Wyoming, again, thank you very much for that Leupold scope. Unbelievable viewers I got on this show. You guys stay safe out there. I will catch you in the next video. And remember, times are crazy out there. I want you guys to stay armed where you are legally allowed to do so. This is coming from a police officer. Things are getting nutty out there, and I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but you're in charge of your own safety. You've seen it on the t-shirts before. No one is coming. It's up to you. So stay armed where you are legally allowed to do so. Until next video, OG out.